Hello everyone, Sar here. Thank you so much for joining me. I am here creating some cards with Simon Says stamps for, what is this, August 2021. Um, I had a lot of fun and challenges with this kit just because it is getting closer to the fall and I kind of want to work on fall projects and frogs are more summery, but I definitely finally figured or I finally got some inspiration and I'm very happy to show you the cards that I created this time with this kit. So let's continue with card number one. For the first card, I decided to work with the stencil that came in this card kit. It has a bunch of different pieces to it. There's the wave, I call it, on the bottom. There's clouds on the top, and then in the center there are some lily pads, and I believe, are they lily flowers or I don't know what they're called. Lotus flowers, I'm not sure. But anyways, some flowers and lily pads. So to start off, I'm going to be using some, I believe, Broken China Distressed ink, not oxide ink. So this one has to be, you gotta be a little more careful with this one because if you go too heavy, you can't smooth it out. And I'm going to take the bottom part of the stencil that I call the wave, and I'm going to just move it up slightly. And it's very, very similar to how you work with the cloud stencil. Um, but what I'm doing is I'm creating the darkest layer on the bottom, and every time I move up, I'm just going a little shade less, so pretty much not as heavy. And if you start with the bottom, it works because every time you put layers on the top, it's darkening the bottoms as well. And so, but that creates this really neat um, four layer wave effect. It looks kind of fun. I really like it. I'm gonna try to remember to use this for other cards. I just love how it works. I then took a dauber or a ink pad and I just took some bright yellow. This is an oxide. I can't remember which color it was. And created a circle for the sun. I wanted a bright circle sun, like so that these little, what do you call them, inkers, I guess. They were the perfect size for the sun. And then I took some mustard seed and I didn't go heavy on it. I just kind of dabbed it into the brush and just touched the sun. And that just created kind of just a little bit darker sun. I had already swished around the whole sun when the brush was not as dry or as wet anymore, and that creates the halo. And then when I added the mustard seed in the center, it just darkens the sun without touching the rest of the ring. But I didn't press hard, I just dabbed it. So, because I didn't want the sun to be too dark. The only other blue I have on hand that I could find was Speckled Egg, which is a new color, I believe, this year from Tim Holtz. And this is the ink, it's a small cube. And I decided to use that as the clouds because I don't want the clouds to be the same color as the water. I did start getting a little crazy. I was trying just to play around, and it's at this point now that I make my mistake and my clouds don't line up anymore. I'll point it out in a second, and because I look at it, I'm like, oops, that doesn't look right. And I'll point at it probably right about now. Now, now, there we go. There we go. I don't like it. So what I'm going to do is try to cover that with my design, and that won't be a problem. As long as you can semi-cover it, no one's going to notice. I am just going to add one more layer. This is the fourth layer to my waves. And it's just going to be very, very light. You probably won't even see it on the camera. It's going to be extremely light. I am using the lightest of touches. I'm dabbing off the ink so that it doesn't have any chance of creating too much of a darkness. This is the frog I created. I did use some Altenew watercolors. I absolutely love using these water brushes. I just have so much fun playing with the colors. And in this one, I used, I believe it's like the lime green, the sunshine yellow, and I think there's an autumn orange. Those are the colors I used for this one. And maybe another color. I think there might be emerald in there somewhere, but they're just so much fun to play with. So I did that off camera. If you are by any chance interested, I did record all my coloring for my frogs, but I cut it out of this video because it took a long time. So if you're interested, I can put that video online, but I'm not going to do it unless people ask. And so then I'm just going to add my stamp. I love this sentiment. You are totally awesome. I'm not one for puns, really. I think they're cute, but I don't go my way to do them. But this stamp set has a lot of good ones, and even though this looks like a frog, I just love this sentiment. It's so cute. So I put that on the side there on the right, and I'm going to place my frog on the left-hand side, or my scenery, and it'll just all balance out in the end. I am trimming this down to, I believe, oh, what is it? I believe it is 5¼ by 4 inches. I believe that's what it is. I just snipped off a little bit on both sides. It is an A2 size card that I'm going to be gluing it on, which is 5½ by 4¼ So essentially I just removed 1/4 from the top and bottom, and then you center it. And that gives you the 1/8. I am using my Barely Art glue. I just purchased this. I've seen so many people using it. They suddenly switched to this, so I wanted to try it out. I like it. I don't know the difference too much with this and art glitter glue, which I absolutely love. I did ask another YouTuber, and they mentioned that apparently this glue doesn't freeze or doesn't get damaged when it gets really cold. And that actually is important to me if I start mailing out my cards in the winter and such. So I am going to give this glue a chance, and if that is something that our glitter glue doesn't do, I probably will switch. They are both amazing glue. They both work just as well. So really, if that's the difference, I will go for that one because that is important to me. And then I'm just going to glue my lily pad. So the lily pad and the cattails I did color once again off camera using the alcohol marker. No, sorry, using the Altenew watercolor markers. And now I'm just going to set that all and create a little teeny marsh scene. It's kind of funny because he's just floating there, and it kind of looks like he's just floating down the river because there's no land. But we can use our imagination and pretend that just a centimeter or an inch to the left more, you'll see where there's actually land, so that the marsh is actually there. But in this picture, we're just capturing the perfect scene. Let's use our imaginations. And that finishes that card. I really like it. It's really cute. Okay, I'm really sorry for card number 2. I created my very first successful shaker card. I was so proud, and then I realized I did not record it. I was so heartbroken. But once again, I did color these all off camera, but I created the whole thing, the shaker and everything, and I was going so careful and showing everyone all the steps I did, and I'm so sorry I didn't record this. So what I'm going to do is just add some dots so that I can finish recording this video for you guys. At least it's doing something. But yeah, I was so bummed. It happens. It happens a lot. I am in the midst, like my setup is all over the place right now. So these things are happening left, right, and center. They are expected until I finally officially move into my new place and have everything set up and everything doesn't move on a daily basis. But that was my shaker card, and I hope you enjoyed it. I really was happy with the end result because my first shaker cards I've ever created, they always get jammed up, and this is the first one that actually was successful. For the last card, to make it up, I am going to keep the coloring in, and this is my watercoloring for using the stencils. And I absolutely love this technique. This is my favorite, when I have stencils like this is my favorite way of getting messy and creating some fun, interesting backgrounds. I am not looking for perfection. If you're looking for perfection, do not use this method because the water is going to go underneath the stencil and it's going to be messy. Can you do it so that it won't be messy? Yes, but you have to make sure your brush is really semi-dry, like not wet at all, and you have to be extremely careful to make sure that the water doesn't get underneath that stencil. If it does, you need to act quickly to pick it up. You can use water to saturate it and dab it so that can erase it if you're quick enough. But for this technique, why? Why would I bother being a perfectionist? Because there's so many other ways to do it without being messy like this. So for this, I am playing around with the different colors. I believe it's the lime green, emerald green, I think is the other one. And I'm working on the lily pads for now. I'm just going to space them around. I'm not worried that things are not drying completely. I am cleaning my stencil every time I pick it up so that I'm not going to place it down with some wet ink on it. For the larger ones, I'm using more of the brighter green. For the smaller ones, it's that darker emerald green. But I am mixing colors. As you can see, there's a little bit of lime green in that lagoon. Or sorry, in the emerald. Then I'm going to just add some more colors. I am now going to start adding some flowers. And in this one, I can't pronounce the name. Let's just call it pink. I don't have the color in front of me. It's at my mom's house, so it is. Let's just call it a pink. And right now, all I'm doing is just creating the first layer. You don't need to do multiple layers, but it definitely helps when you let it dry and do layer upon layer. It just creates some different effects, and you will see how it looks afterwards. I'm not worried about if some are darker than others. I like pretty much what's going through my head is I need to fill in the space. So I've done my lily pads. You start with the biggest image first. You start working into the smaller ones. You start filling it in. You don't want too much close together, so you don't want all those pink flowers too close together. You kind of want to move them in different directions. And that's kind of what you try to do to fill in a background. As for the coloring, I am grabbing some ink. I may add a lot of water. I may not add a lot of water. And then I just place it down. That's it. There is no thought process any more than that. In this case, I wanted to add a little bit more green, the bright lime green, so I did. And then I just dabbed it in there. Because the lily pad was still wet, I dabbed it in. But you can tell that that lily pad is not a perfect shape, and I'm okay with that. If it was really bad, I can always hide it with something. We have embellishments to do things like that. We can always just... In fact, I could have outlined all these in a black marker. That would also do it. Many ways you can fix things up to make them a little more polished. But for me, right now, I'm just working on filling this in with just a single color. So pink, now I'm working with orange, greens, and for the lily pads. And we'll just make sure we fill in all the spaces. We don't want too much white. That's the nice thing about these little backgrounds. Just make sure that we fill it in best we can. I did go off camera a couple times, so I am cutting it fast. I'm just cutting through that if I colored off camera. No point seeing me do that. And I think this is the last one I'm going to color, and then I'm going to let it dry off camera. And then I'll come back in a second. Okay, so now that it's dry, it doesn't look like I let it dry, but I did. I walked away for a bit. I'm now going to do my second layer. And in this case, I'm going to take the darker color, and I'm just going to go and do different things. I have no real rhythm to what I'm doing. I kind of just thought, let's add some dark colors to where the lily pad is cut open. And then I add it, and all I'm doing is just spreading it, using my water pen to spread it, adding water, and just spreading it out. I personally like the cloud of color. I like it when there's a bold. I love it when it's just all over the place. That, to me, looks really nice. If you're looking for a gradient, like an ambient color, all you need to do is just add more water and spread it. So I'm using, instead of using the very thin brush that I'm using, use the thicker one, and you just go across the whole thing and you push the color up. That's how you create that type of ombre, I think it's called, or gradient effect. I do it sometimes. I do it not all the time. As you can see, I'm kind of doing that technique right now on the smaller one. I kind of just added more water at the very end and pushed it up and just made that gradient. And now I'm just going to do the same thing. I kind of want to just try it again, just add the very fine line, and then I'm going to add some water and just push that out. Sometimes it makes it really bright and sometimes it doesn't. If it looks good, I will leave it. If it looks like I can play with it some more, I will try. I'm kind of just repeating myself just to explain that there really is no thinking going here. I'm just picking color, putting it on, picking up color, putting on, picking up color, putting on. Like that's it. I'm not thinking about what I want to do. I have an idea, but it's not like I have something imagined in my head that I'm aiming for. I find for this style of coloring, the messier the better. I did it once with pineapples. What was it? For Scrapping for Less a year ago or so. It was one of their kits, and I really loved how it turned out. They were so messy. Yeah, you could still tell they're pineapples, but it was so messy, and I just loved it. And when I saw this stencil in this kit, I knew that's what I wanted to do. So you can see how these lily pads are definitely taking shape now. Like they have dimension. They look fun. They look like watercolor fun. That's the best way I can put it, and that's how I love my watercolors. I love the messy look. I don't look for clean lines with watercolor. I want to be outside the lines. That's just how I love it. Just like water is free. It will follow the way it wants to follow. If you try to force it, you can try, but sometimes it has a mind of its own, and that's what I love about it. It's very organic. Let the water do its work. If you don't want too much, you can just put your paper towel and kind of dab it up and then add the colors back again if you've sopped it up. For the pink flowers, I'm just adding some orange. You can tell I'm getting really focused because my face is getting more and more into the camera. I'm forgetting the camera's there and I'm getting really into it. So that's a good sign that I'm having fun and just zoned in when you start seeing the corner of my face getting in there. And then for the orange ones, I'm just going to add a little bit of pink just to kind of tie it all together. And then I'm taking a brush, I'm going to soak it with water and take the rest of the ink that I had put on my little mat there on the side, and I'm spraying it down all over, just creating different little dots of color. So I'll do the green and I'll do the pink and orange. And I'm just going to splatter that around. Once again, no end result expected except splatter. And I'm just going to dab that up so that it is a little bit drier so I can get ready to cut it. You can let it sit and dry and you'll get the blooming effect or that nice ring. But I decided just to dry it with a paper towel and just have the lighter dots. And there we go. Really, really cute. I love this. I really like it. Not for everyone, but for me, it's awesome. I am going to layer this on 2 matte layers. The first one is this really pretty stripes, diagonal stripes. They almost match the colors that I chose, which was on purpose. And then I'm going to take this dark blue from the card kit and I'm going to create another layer. So the stripes is going to be 5 1/4 by 4, and then that makes the dark blue layer, I believe, 5 by 3 3/4. I believe those are the sizes. And I'm just going to make my little letter here. Since I didn't record my shaker card, I'm just going to show you more of my process with this card. That's my rationale. I don't know. That's just what I do. And that's my card. That's my A2 size card. That is the size I always use. I'm going to center this using my, in this case, art glitter glue. I'm not sure why I switched. I probably just forgot that I had my Barely art glue. And so, like I said, it doesn't matter. They're both very good glues. And I'm just going to center that into the card, leaving a very thin white border. And then the blue one. I think the blue one is slightly smaller than I said because I wanted to show more of the stripes. And it's just going to be, I think it's starting to get into those 5/8, 7/8 nonsense that I'm not too familiar with. So that's why, let's just say it's slightly bigger than that background. For the sentiment and the imagery, I decided I didn't want to lose any of my color. As you saw, I was playing around with the circles to see if I can put a circle, which I used for my shaker card. But I decided I didn't want to cover any of it. So for my sentiment and my imagery, I'm just going to stamp it with some VersaFi Mark ink, black ink, and I'm just going to leave it uncolored. I just want to have the image and let the background show. For the sentiment, it's really bold anyway, so it kind of shows through. You can see it very well. And I really like how it turned out. It's kind of like the image is there, but it's tying it with the lily pads, but really the lily pads and the flowers are the main focal point. One thing you could have done is taken the blue watercolor with a really, really light color and fill in all the whites so it's blue, so that it is more of a watercolor, like if they're all in the water. You could have done that. You can add some gel white or black and create ripples in the water and have a lot of fun with that. I didn't do that. I just thought of it as I was recording. Maybe something I might do in the future if I feel ambitious enough, but we'll see. That's just another idea that just popped in my head as I was creating this. I don't know where my acrylic blocks are. That's why I'm using my Misty for all this. You don't need to use your Misty. It's kind of overkill for this, especially for these little flies I put on there. These flies are absolutely adorable. There's one in the little frog's beverage, like an olive, so I decided to add two more. You don't need to use this Misty for that. Use your acrylic blocks, but I don't know where they are. So I had to use my Misty. And then I just glued, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some foam tape. This is from scrapbooking.com. It works really well for these large panels. You can use fun foam as well. That works just as well. And this just is what I wanted to use. And no other reason than I just wanted to use it. If I had fun foam available, I would have used it. And I'm just going to take that off and I'm going to just center that into the center. I'm going to center it on the card so that you can see the stripes, subtle, a little bit of stripes, and then that white border as well. I really love this card. I love that dark blue outline that separates it from the borders. It just really works really well, and I just love how this turned out. And that is that for this card. I kept it nice and simple. Well, that's it for my cards. I'm going to show you my 3 cards. I didn't record myself showing it, so I'm just going to do it this way. I hope you enjoyed these cards. I'm sorry once again that I didn't get my shaker card recorded. It is a bummer. I was so proud of that, but I'm really, really happy with how my 3 cards turned out with this card kit. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this has created some inspiration. If you have this card kit and you have watercolors, I hope that you get them out and you just start making a mess and having a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye.